Cloud. Okay. All right. Well, it's great to see everyone. Thanks for coming to our final all hands meeting. I hope that your ReproRehab experience has been steady and peaceful and maybe a nice distraction in the current climate. I'm going to re-put what we're going to go over in the chat. But today is just kind of a day for everyone to report back on what their ReproRehab experience has been like. So we'll have each person go around and say their name, position, affiliation, and pod, and whether you were a learner or a TA. And then just briefly share what you did and then what you learned. And I think that is especially helpful so that we can each kind of get to know what each other did. And so that, you know, we always say like we recently started saying once a ReproRehab person, forever a ReproRehab person. So hopefully this is a community that you can turn to if you have questions moving forward about stats or programming or open science or data sharing or all sorts of things. And so it's nice to kind of know what everyone did. I will also share that, you know, we do have your reports that are going to be due on Friday. And so we're asking you to make a short video as well as turn in like a one-page report. This is really helpful for us because we send this along to the program officers to justify the continuation of funding. And that will especially be helpful in the upcoming year because I think next year we'll have to apply for renewal. So we appreciate all the work that you guys have done and hope that you can continue to do that. The other thing I'll note is that for anyone going to ASNR, the American Society for NeuroRehab, at the end of April, we will be there. Keith, Andrew Hueyman, and I are going to do an educational session, which is basically a ReproRehab super duper crash course to get people interested and excited about computer programming that may not otherwise do it. So if you're going to be there, please let me know. We would love for people to wear their ReproRehab giant pins. If you don't have one, I'll bring extras. We would also love for people to be there to kind of like walk around and help people as needed during the session. It's great visibility for you and also for us to have that. So let me know. And then if you'll be at ASNR, we will be doing karaoke, I think on Thursday night. So we have a local contact, but keep that night free. Feel free to tell your friends. I think last year we had over 100 people at like an actual karaoke bar. So we will see what happens this year. Okay, I think that's it for my announcements. Emily, did I miss anything else?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, I can resend the link for where to upload the final reports as well, if that's helpful. It's also in some previous emails that I've sent in the past as well.
Maybe you can just send it one more time today, but it's fresh on everyone's mind. And then your videos do get compiled into one master video that we'll put on YouTube. And so that's really useful because a lot of people ask, what do people do in ReproRehab? So we often refer them to these links to get an idea of what different projects are and how diverse they can be. Okay, I think that's it. So I'll put it one more time in the chat for what everyone's going to share. And I just want to give a big shout out to Emily, who's our amazing program manager this year. Woo! Thanks, Emily. She will be transitioning to her third year of the OT program. So she's going to do more field work and clinical work moving forward, but she may still be involved if she has time. And if not, Ashley is our upcoming program manager. So you'll be hearing more from her. And Emily's been doing an amazing job of handing off to Ashley as well. So thanks, Emily. All right. So I'll just go in order on the screen. And if you like turn off your camera, turn it on, or someone else does, and it gets mixed up and you get missed, just put it in the chat and we'll make sure, or just speak up and we'll make sure to get to you. Okay. Dave, you're next. Do you have any final words for everyone, or do you want to plug ReproNim or anything?
Well, always plugging ReproNim, and you said the most important thing I needed said is once a Repro person of any sort, always a Repro person of some sort. The community persists, and it's important for us to create the ever increasing community for both ReproRehab's sake and the ReproNim mission overall. Just as a slight background, ReproNim is going to be competing for its third phase, its third last 5-year cycle, starting in submitting in May or so. So all of the great things that happen in this group is very important for us to advertise and sell to our reviewers that what we're doing is helpful to a broad community. So thank you for all of that, and thank you for doing the assignments for this, because that will also trickle into our promotional materials. So thank you all, and the learners, the TAs, the returning TAs. It's been great, continues to be great.
And I also linked ReproNim. For those who haven't heard us talk about ReproNim, ReproNim is the parentship of ReproRehab, and we kind of spun off out of that to bring the same principles, teaching reproducible science and basic programming to rehabilitation scientists. If you also straddle another world that you think could benefit from these types of materials and lessons, and you want to start your own repro offshoot, let me know, or let Dave know, and we're happy to help you do that, because I think it only makes everyone's science better.
Yeah, that's a great point to reemphasize. We try to avoid the word Ponzi scheme or a scheme like that, but the more we can trickle down to spread to additional communities, the better. So all of you are now armed to address small communities or big communities, and the more you can become the advocates of reproducibility in general, the better that is, and we're happy to help people attempt to get as big a program as possible through that mechanism. So yes, definitely let us know.
All right, next up is Skylar.
All right. My name is Skylar Holmes. I'm a postdoc at Stanford University in the radiology department. I was in Pod 2 learning Python, and I learned so much. I had no Python experience. I was primary MATLAB, so learning that was very helpful. The main thing that was helpful for me was in my new lab, they only use Python. So only within probably like a month of my pod, I was then able to run our knee cartilage analysis pipeline. And I got 17 people through and a lot of trouble, but I was able to get it done. So that was awesome.
Awesome. That's wonderful to hear. And are you a Python convert now? Or which do you prefer, Python or MATLAB?
I do like Python a lot more. I think I need to get a little bit more comfortable with it, but I think I will turn into a Python convert pretty soon.
All right, great to know. I think your TAs will be excited to hear that. All right, Chelsea.
Sorry, that caught me off guard. I'm Chelsea, and I'm a postdoc at WashU, and I'm in my first year of my postdoc, and I'm in Pod 1. And before this, like, I had no coding experience at all. I was one of those people that really was bad and did SPSS and Excel, and all of my figures were really ugly. Please don't ever look at any of my dissertation or any publications. So yeah, I learned how to do some basic coding and data cleaning, and then some other higher level statistic analysis, thanks to Keith. Couldn't do that without him. And so, yeah, I learned a lot in this process, and I'm so eternally grateful for everyone. So yeah, thank you so much.
That's awesome. Thank you. And SPSS and Excel are not bad, and figures, as long as they show the data, are great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's nothing to be embarrassed about, but we do push for moving forward. So that's awesome that you were able to learn that too. Thanks, Chelsea. All right, Amanda.
Amanda Galat. So I'm the one of the TAs for Pod 4. I'm wrapping up at NYU and moving into a faculty position, which I will hopefully announce soon. So what I learned this year, really just a lot. Pod 4 is just a wealth of information. The learners and Joanna learning about machine learning through her, as well as using GitHub a little bit more efficiently, and then really helping to problem solve with all of the learners and seeing all of their projects. I've really learned quite a bit, primarily working in R. As far as what I've done and accomplishments, one of my big focuses as a TA was really kind of showing the way for reproducibility practices. So using our markdown files, sharing version control. And I really got kind of interested in, and I think the pod hopefully found it interesting, into more interactive data visualization. And so that was what my final project was sort of some basic code in R to turn your data visualizations, your plots, to be more interactive for when you're sharing data for other people to explore it, and then how to save that and post it either as a website or using widgets through presentations to better communicate and visualize your data. And that will be my tutorial project. So if you guys are interested, you can watch that brief video, and then I have all my code up on GitHub, as well as an HTML, like a web page with that knitted document too.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, all the TAs, we asked them during this time when the learners were working on their self-guided projects, the TAs were supposed to create a YouTube tutorial on a topic of their choosing. So we'll also send out a playlist to all of those YouTube tutorials at the end as well. Thanks. All right, Claudio.
Hi, my name is Kweju Apiakubi. I'm an assistant professor from Clarkson University. And I am a learner, and then I was part of Pod 2. So before I joined, I had very little experience with using HasLab code, and I wanted to see how I could also start learning Python. So I was able to at least get used to the interface, how it operated and all that. Being able to write functions, and then being able to debug as well. I would say one exciting part of me joining that group was being able to use data visualization to explore my data and then really look at the behavior of the data, which will inform me to, know which one I should be including, and then those that I should exclude I should exclude if they are bad data. For instance, where my my static balance assessment data, I did realize that some of the trials for some reason the equipment was not collecting properly, and therefore the just using data visualization, I was able to see that it didn't have the physiologic sweet pattern that would be expected. So it helped me to identify those bad data to take them out. So it was something that I have done for the first time, and giving me the idea that I could have the tool to really look into the data and making sure I am working with the appropriate one.
Awesome. We love to hear that. That is
Yeah.
one of the most important things, is
Mhm.
making sure the underlying data is good. So that's great that you were able
Absolutely.
to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Rini.
Hi all, my name is Jenny Varghese. I am a postdoc at Johns Hopkins University and Kennedy Krieger Institute. I was a co-TA with Andrew Hoyman in Pod 3, and we came up with a curriculum based on learner goals. So our accomplishments were that we were able to put together this curriculum, and in the effort to be reproducible in our teaching methods, a repository for all the code that we helped guide through during the bootcamp. And then, yeah, I think those are the things that we did, the curriculum and the reproducible repository that we have now as a way to springboard and do other things with. What I learned was mostly from the feedback that we got from learners is that, one, as intended, the bootcamp is fast-paced. So one of the things we like to do in the future is maybe record some of these sessions, and then also do some learning checks, do some bite-sized homeworks that are easily done, but reinforce the concept. So for my teaching goals, which were part of the goals for me as a TA, I think those that feedback was really helpful. So moving forward, that's something I'd like to incorporate. And yeah, and based on some of those goals or some of that feedback, I have a tutorial that I've planned for one of the ways that we taught class for data importing. So
Awesome.
that's all. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rini. All right. Hey, Jin?
Hi, my name is Hai Jin. I complete my PhD at New York University, and I'm in the process of transitioning to a postdoc position, and I'm in a part 4. And through the ReproRehab fellowship, I learned mainly data visualization. So during my fellowship, I created tables and figures and organized my data code script within Markdown files and edit the files into PDF and HTML format for my manuscript using RStudio. And I really appreciate the ReproRehab program and the support from our amazing Pod 4 TAs. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. And congratulations, Dr. Kim. All right, Daria.
Hi, my name is Daria Pressler. I'm a physical therapist and a second-year PhD student at the University of Cincinnati. And I was a learner in Pod 3. And so during ReproRehab, I worked a lot on different visualizations and figures for different manuscripts I was working on at the time, as well as some grant applications and some conference presentations. And then I also used some pilot data to develop some preliminary code, which I'm planning to use and modify for my future dissertation research over the next 2 years. My future project uses biomechanical gait data to perform like a prediction analysis for adverse event occurrence during gait training in people with chronic stroke. And so I'm really grateful to our Pod 3 TAs because it was super helpful more effectively learning how to import some of this like gait biomechanical data into R, and has really given me a good framework and use of coding techniques to be a lot more organized with my data and be able to complete the analyses that I'm planning going forward. So thank you very much.
Awesome. We love to hear that. Thank you. And yeah, for everyone, keep us updated as you move forward and continue to use the tools and everything. We have a link in the chat that's pinned, or in the Slack that's pinned, for where you can upload any products, any papers, grants, abstracts, etc. That helps us too. Thanks. All right, Joanna.
Yeah, hey, my name is Joanna, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the Donders Institute for Brain Cognition and Behavior in the Netherlands. And yeah, what have I learned so much? This year I focused on machine learning, and I wanted to improve both my knowledge and my teaching skills in machine learning. So I wrote 3 Jupyter notebooks, and I focused on machine learning principles from scratch. So like basically writing your own code for the optimizer and the gradients and everything like that. So yeah, I focus on regression, clustering, and decision trees, and I have them in a repository if you're interested. I tried to improve my presentation techniques. So I went through literature for creating effective coding tutorials, and then I looked into the Manim library. I don't know whether you know 3 Blue, 1 Brown, but that's the Python package that they use to animate basically the math concepts. And that's what I did. So I recorded one of the videos and I put in like a little Manim animation at the beginning. And I also expanded on my video editing skills with Adobe Pro. And the conclusion is it's quite hard. Like it took so much time, like so much more than just recording it. I spent like hours on this. Yeah, but beyond that, I learned a lot from the learners. Again, this was the highlight of the course. It's always the interaction with the learners. And my teaching, I think, improves every time. What we did again is like, or that we also did last year, is like soliciting like early feedback from the learners, both on like the structure of the course and also on the material. I think that always helps. And again, we also had self-learning progress plans. So basically had the learners make like a little plan what they're planning to do through the self-learning phase. I think that also really helps. And then, yeah, what I've done, I created a 30-minute regression tutorial video with this little animation and the Jupyter notebooks. I taught the two Git courses again. Yeah, we had pod meetings, and I had a work block that was a nice fixture on my Thursday evenings. And I'm actually planning to continue with the YouTube videos for the machine learning stuff. And I'm happy for you guys to host them also on the channel once they're done, but it will take some time. And I will mention ReproRehab in each one of them.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I'm really excited to see your animations and also your video editing skills.
Yeah.
Now we
Yeah,
know who to
maybe
go
I can
to.
do like a tutorial on that.
Yes, it sounds hard.
It is.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Thanks, Joanna. All right, Bryant.
Hi, yes, my name is Bryant Seaman, and I'm an assistant professor at the Medical University of South Carolina in the Division of Physical Therapy. And in the ReproRehab Fellowship, I was in Pod 3 with Rini and Andrew, and I think we were the intermediate R. And it was a great learning experience. I learned a lot, and what was really helpful in the past, I've used SAS a lot, but I wanted to move away from SAS because I liked R for data visualization, and so I now feel a lot more confident in R and doing a little bit of regression modeling, which was part of the curriculum. I do a lot of regression modeling in SAS, so now I'm kind of dabbling in that a little more in R. But one of the other things I learned a lot about was just great principles that I could institute in my lab to just help with reproducibility. So I have a few students who are now using R, and we have R projects set up and some better systems for file structures and naming. And so that's just really helped add to the transparency and my ability to mentor the students as well. So I'm just very thankful for that.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Just another part of the Ponzi scheme. Awesome. Thanks, Brian. All right, Sumi.
Hi, I'm Sumi. I'm a postdoc at University of Florida. I was the co-TA for Pod 1 with Grace. So I taught the MATLAB subgroups because we had MATLAB and R learners in our beginner group. And then for our hands-on portion, Grace and I co-facilitated the pod meetings. And I learned so many like different types of statistical analysis that people were interested in. There was a huge range of studies that people were doing. That was definitely really interesting for me to hear and learn because some of them I haven't heard before. Yeah, and then I hope to use, I also learned like some of the codes that I used to teach, I had to clean up a lot. So I learned that a lot of my previous code can be cleaned up and commented a lot to teach my mentors and learners. That was all great.
That was great. Thank you so much. I think also AI is something that can help you comment your code now and clean it. We'll have to have a discussion. I think by the next summit in September, maybe the panel on this will have changed views. I'm curious. We'll see. Anyways, thanks, Sumi. All right, Evan.
My name is Evan. I'm a second-year PhD student at Boston University. I was a learner in Pod 2, the Intro to Python course. And so what I worked on this year was using Python to write a function that could identify the taps in our IMU code. And so it was very cool. I had a little bit prior experience in R and MATLAB, but a lot of what was being used for these devices was written in Python, so this was very helpful in learning how to like write and edit my own custom functions for this work. And it worked out pretty well. And I learned a lot of cool visualizations in Python that I like a lot.
Awesome. All right, great to hear it. Yeah, that sounds very useful. And you're also welcome to share your code if it becomes useful to others.
Yes.
That's awesome. Thanks, Evan. All right, Adriana.
Hi, so I'm Adriana Conforto. I'm a neurologist. I'm a professor in neurology and senior researcher from São Paulo, Brazil. So I had no previous experience with coding. I really started from zero, just had experience with SPSS and Excel like Chelsea. And now my students are already, understanding that something changed dramatically because now I want everything in code, and all my students had to learn code too. I'm sort of a preacher, I think, for R now and for ReproRehab. Really, I'm super thankful for the program. I think I worked with my own data, but now the way I plan my next projects is completely different. Just the way I'm going to manage and organize everything, because the code can help, but if you plan much more already thinking about the code, then I think everything is smoother. So so I worked my data. I participated in a workshop that required R from the American Heart. And now I'm going to apply for a grant that was opened for people who attended that workshop. So, and now I'm so excited about this that I'm actually enrolled in an MBA in data science starting here at São Paulo. So it's totally out of control. That's what I want
I
to.
love it. I love it.
And so I'm really thankful. And I also like to thank Andrew, Grace, and Sumir for their patience, and all my colleagues. I had a lot of fun. Really, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Adriana. All right, JB, is there anything you want to say or add or inspire?
Sure. No, I'm sorry, I kind of wasn't very hands-on on the on anything this year, but I actually learned quite a lot from the so what was learned, I think, was the my kind of angle, and with Dev we are taking care of this trainer program that's at ReproRehab, and that's to me it's really useful to see how is this going and what is useful for this community, and I hope to also push a bit more some of the training material of ReproRehab and my own kind of McGill training material for this crowd. In particular, I was thinking like we were talking about, like AI helping us to code. I think there's a bit of a training material to be done on that. So I think that's what I'm planning for the near future. And yeah, no, it was super useful to see, first of all, your own feedbacks and what you've been involved in and what you've been doing in the pods. And I hope that some of the kind of links or little kind of pointers that I put have been useful for some of you at least. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, JB. All right, Grace.
Hi, everyone. I'm Grace Bellinger. I am a postdoc at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and I was one of the TAs for Pod 1. I learned so much. I feel like I learned even more this year as a TA than I did last year as a learner. A real focus for me, both like within and outside ReproRehab the last several months, was data visualization. So I learned a lot. We had, I think, 2 pod meetings on the topic. So even just compiling resources to share with the learners taught me a lot. Andrew's talk at CSM taught me a lot, and just getting into Illustrator R and trying things out myself. I think my illustration skills visualization skills have come a long way. I also learned a lot about writing scripts more efficiently. I think in the past I've just done whatever worked, but this year I've been working with, I also started a project that was totally starting from scratch. Like the investigators I was working with had not used R, they were only Stata users. And so I really had to build scripts from scratch that were using high performance computing. So they really had to be efficient. And I used a lot of resources like Keith's tutorials on for loops, and really tried to be thoughtful in my code writing. And as Sumi said, I also learned a lot of more complex statistical analyses. It was also a good refresher on some of the, basics of what types of plots and what types of stats are most appropriate for different data types, because Pod 1 really had everything from qualitative survey data to really complex continuous data. So it was a great refresher on stats, as my work also gets into more complex GLMs. So I learned a lot, and I think one of my greatest accomplishments is just I feel like a lot of the Pod 1 learners are really empowered. We had a range of skill set like starting out, people that had never opened a program before, and now so many of the Pod 1 learners are just flourishing, and I love to see it. That's the best part.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Thanks so much, Grace. All right, Dan.
Hey, my name's Dan Peterson. Was in Pod 3. I'm an associate professor at ASU. Was a learner in Pod 3 with Andrew and Rini. And yeah, I mean, like most people, I learned quite a bit. I had done a little bit of coding in R before, some in MATLAB. So a lot of it was just kind of understanding better the workflow and project management to like bring things through collection, through analytics. A lot of time I spent kind of refining and kind of updating my skill set in analytics and visualization. And like I said, just kind of making sure I'm building projects now that is built around R rather than kind of integrating R at the very end. So that's been really, really helpful, and similar to some of the other folks, kind of making sure I'm integrating that into my trainees' learning plans to make sure they're kind of getting some of the same benefits that I got from you all. So still have a fair amount to learn. I was just going through a list of things like version control and Git and Markdown, things like that. So ways to go, but I feel really empowered that I have the skill set to take that on, much more so than I did a year ago.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. All right, JB, before you go, let's take one group picture, Zoom picture. It's just like COVID days. And then we'll keep going. All right, I'm going to take two actually because I have to toggle to the next slide, I think so. All right, everyone say ReproRehab. That was longer than I thought. Okay, 1, 2, 3, ReproRehab. Okay, and then next one, ready? 1, 2, 3, ReproRehab. All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Okay.
Thanks, Lee. This is
Bye.
fantastic.
Yeah, bye, JB. All right, Jamie, on to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Cronenberg. I am finishing up my PhD at Ohio State. I defend on Wednesday. So super exciting, and used a lot of what I learned in ReproRehab during the preparation of my dissertation document. And really just like my last name in general, it made my life way easier. I was in Pod 3 with Rini and Andrew, worked a lot on just like learning R in general. I had sort of like dabbled in it a little bit, but only ever with code that other people had provided me. But like really got a good understanding in terms of like just even just troubleshooting my own code and writing some new stuff, lots on data visualization, and was able to make some really cool plots to include in my dissertation, which was great because we didn't have any significant results, but the plots that I made revealed some really interesting trends. And I probably wouldn't have done that had it not been for ReproRehab. So really, really grateful for this opportunity.
Awesome. And good luck, break a leg, early congratulations. Let us know on Slack when you've defended. Great. All right, Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Banks. I am a postdoc at Kennedy Krieger Institute and Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. I was in Pod 4 as a learner. And so I had kind of two main goals for ReproRehab. One was to stop being afraid of GitHub. So I did a lot of tutorials and I learned some things, and I have like a little profile and everything now. And then I also spent a lot of time improving my R skills. Amanda helped us a ton with learning tips and tricks with data visualization and R Markdown and all sorts of stuff. And then I was able to clean a really large data set and take it all the way through the first round of data analysis. And I also learned how to use linear mixed effects models through this process. So thanks very much to Keith for all the tutorials and the help on that. I've learned so much, done so much, and I'm really excited for all the things that are coming next. I just posted in a few groups that I'm in about how people need to sign up to do this next year.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Caitlin. That's awesome. All right, James.
Good morning / afternoon, everyone. So a couple of things. Sorry. One, just listening to everybody's projects is what you all have been doing is really inspiring. I just let Lee know that I think I want to be a learner next time.
I do too.
So yeah, things you learn through your career is that at some point you realize people are learning skills that you never learned. So I'm a little bit jealous. So yeah, just wanted everybody to be aware of that. So one thing that I've been doing over the last, really in the fall semester and into the very beginning of the spring semester that's very much related to ReproRehab is through another grant that I have through NSF. We've been working with a local high school where for the past 2 years I've been doing a week-long module on introducing them to data science. And so I'm almost exclusively a MATLAB user, but this module we do in Python. So I've had to sort of like learn some Python along the way. And so what we did is that we actually are sort of this close to deploying this on my lab website, but we developed a game over the past few years where the learners or the students can play the game through their browsers. We developed this in Unity. It's sort of a speed accuracy trade-off, like endless runner type of game. As they play, we save that data on a Google Sheet, and then we use Google Colab and basically a Python notebook for them to analyze their own data, do some data visualization. So it's been really cool. So we sort of, I think there are maybe 50 students per year who we expose to that, and then after they do that module, they come and visit the lab. So it's been a pretty rewarding part of the science that we do that actually, I think, directly impacts those students and what they want to do for their careers. So yeah, so that's I think the most ReproRehab related thing that I think would be of interest to the audience, and I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone else has been doing. Oh, last thing, I also promote ReproRehab almost every time I give a talk. So I'm sort of an evangelist, if you will.
James is our best recruiter, I would say. When we ask, how did you find out about ReproRehab? Like, James Finley gave a talk. So feel free to follow in those footsteps and also share about Repro. We'll also send out our logo that you can put on any of your things. So feel free to take up the flag. Thanks, James. All right, Nayo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nayo Hill. I'm an assistant professor at Kennedy Krieger Institute, and that's a transition from where I started ReproRehab. And so one of my main goals with ReproRehab was really to get some really good skills to set up my lab and future work with trainees well to do good reproducible science. So one of the main concrete things that I learned was similar to Caitlin, tackling my fear of GitHub and getting really proficient with version control. And I've now applied that to all of the different code sets that I have and all the different projects that I'm working on. And so that's felt really empowering, like a very good step towards reproducibility. And then the other big thing that I've been working on is just cleaning and commenting code for data analysis for really large data sets. And so I have one study that I've been running primarily. And so I got a really good just template for that data analysis. And then I took the code of a collaborator and transformed it into that same template. So now we have data outputs that are pretty similar for these two tasks. So now we can kind of compare metrics and such between the two. And then I've been able to share that code with another colleague in the lab. And so now she can start analyzing some of the data, the new data that are coming in for these various different tasks. So I'm just trying to create the systems and structures that are necessary for data to be nice and clean and organized. And then as we go to publication, being able to share that code and the data sets so that other people can see what we did and reproduce it in various ways. So I'm excited to continue with these tools as I'm establishing my own lab and just getting myself up and running. And this has been a great community to learn in, and I really appreciated our TAs. Oh, I forgot to mention I've been in pod 4 as a learner. And so Joanna and Amanda have been just great resources as I've gone through this process.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations, Professor Hill.
Thank
We love
you.
to hear about these life transitions, stage transitions, all of it. So congrats. Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, Chris.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Sinigliaro, and I am a Pod 1 learner. And I am also an investigator at the James J. Peters VA Medical Center. So just to give you a point of reference, I can totally understand what James is speaking about with being aware of all the skills that your colleagues have that you don't, because I did my master's thesis data statistics by hand. So I thought do SPSS and Prism, and then I learned SAS. I thought I had it all together. And I actually tried to take an R course in Coursera, and I failed so bad, I just said, I don't have the neural synapses. It's just not even a possibility. Put it away. And then a good friend told me about ReproRehab, and I got to tell you, I was overwhelmed up to the holidays, and I just watched Keith's videos endlessly. I don't think I'll ever forget the sound of his voice. That's how many times I've watched them over and over again. And it was that just led me to this one thing, and that was after the holidays I just started to tinker. And I understand now that I had the background, and I kind of had an idea of what the different tacks that were possible, that tinkering and that background just started to build on itself. And all of a sudden, I would just struggle, and then code would run. And it just started to click. And then it was really Sumi and Grace were just so awesome, and everyone in Pod 1 was just so awesome. Watching them, kind of everything start to click as well. I started just immediately moving on to my own data, and data from 2 randomized control trials. I was able to analyze in this, and I'm preparing the manuscripts now. And I'm also now am replying to a grant resubmission, and I'll be able to kind of redo my power analysis and a bunch of other things in R. So I'm such a fan. I've been telling everyone in my lab about it, and all the young people, and I think 4 or 5 of them are applying for this round because they just love the idea of it. And it's just been this semi-structured, low pressure atmosphere. And I am kind of hooked too, because now I have engineering friends telling me, oh, if you thought that was good, you have to learn Python. So it's either I'm going to try to apply again here since this worked for Python, or maybe I got to take a class or something. But it does start to create a momentum and an enthusiasm that the way that this was programmed, that I just thought was extraordinary. Because I got to tell you, I was terrified when October 1st came. I just thought I'm just going to completely fail, and everyone's going to realize that I'm just too old to do this. And it was everything but that. So it really, really has been an amazing experience.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such a great testimony. We're just going to cut your video and put it as an ad for ReproRehab.
Well, and then I don't know if you're familiar, but Pod 1 is I got fired in the middle of in February because I'm a VA employee. I'm a funded investigator, but I got fired. So
no, I thought you got
it's
fired from
okay.
Pod 1.
No, I got fired, my job.
Oh my gosh, I'm
So just
so
to tell
sorry.
you, this in between all the craziness of people yelling at some people in Washington about you can't fire a funded investigator, what are you doing? All right. And I did actually get fired, but I'm connected to so many grants, they were able to hire me back under a totally different thing. But this kept my sanity. I have to tell you, there is something. I know this sounds weird, but it almost was meditative. Just coding, it brought my brain down. It was very soothing. I never thought that would be the case, but pushing through all of this, and just it was very soothing. So it helped on a whole different level that I did not expect at all.
Oh,
So it was really, really great being.
oh, Chris, we're so happy to hear that. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing all of that. And I'm sorry I left it. I really thought that you meant that Grace and Sumi fired you
Oh.
because you were too good or something, and they were trying to send you to the next pod. But I'm glad
No,
it
that's
all worked
okay.
out.
I should have clarified. But it was great. I remember Grace said to me, she goes, "You don't have to do ReproRehab anymore if you don't want to, like for a while." She
Yeah.
felt bad for me, and I appreciate that. I'm like, no, the exact opposite. I want to do twice as much because it kept my head in the right space. So
Totally.
it was just great.
Good. Well, I'm so glad to hear that. Thanks, Chris. All right, Dora.
Oh my God, Chris. I mean, what a story. And I'm so happy to be part of the Pod One crew of people that were scared of R. And I remember coming in for the first meeting, I was like, my husband was going to do R for me. It wasn't my thing. And now I can't believe my husband is asking me how to do R and how to code. I cannot believe it. So this is just amazing. But hi, everybody. My name is Dora Onwumeri. I am a fourth year PhD candidate at New York University. And I want to say a special thank you to Amanda for really, really highlighting this program and encouraging me to apply because I am so grateful for that. During my experience here, there were a lot of bumpy rides, a lot of frustration, maybe some near little bit eye tinkling tears because R is something you have to be consistent with. There's a lot of twists and turns through the process, but that process really gets you empowered to learn R and empowered to know that you can do something. And I feel like R was always that scary, you know, program that I didn't think it was for me. So I was able to overcome that. Over the course of my fellowship, I was able to I'm doing my dissertation, so look at my pilot data, do a data wrangling. I was able to clean up a lot of that and then also mimic and kind of like start my code to visualize my pilot data, which I didn't think I was capable of. I'm still in the thick of my dissertation. I'm doing a pre and post intervention study on autistic mentors in a program that I'm working on with an NSF grant. So I feel you, Chris. We were on a hold and still are on hold for NSF because we do work in diversity, neurodivergent, and all of that stuff. But I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to get all my data. I'm going to be able to continue with my code and hopefully finish at the end. So I'm deeply thankful for everyone. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for building this strength and that I can push through if I work a little bit harder. And maybe I might need to close the laptop and not throw it at the window. But if I close it and come back to it, it just opens up a whole new world. So thank you all. And I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Dora. We're so happy to hear all of that. I put it in the chat, but I think most of programming, especially in the early part of programming, it's just building frustration tolerance for the unknown and for like just figuring out how to get there. So it's great. All right, Keith. Keith, the voice we've all gotten used to hearing.
Yeah, thank you. And it's hard to follow everybody. I feel like I've probably underachieved relative to some of the things that people have been doing this year. But it's great to hear everyone's, stories as like learners and TAs, and it's just really impressive that everything that you all have been able to do with this program. And I think it's really like very gratifying for like Lee, James, and Dave, and JB, and I to see you all like pick these things up and run with it, right? Because that's the whole point of this kind of thing is to give you all tools to be able to do the research that you want to do and build a more sustainable, reproducible workforce. So to that end, I think the best thing that ties into ReproRehab for me, other than like being involved in some of your projects on different levels, is we got to revise the statistical guidelines at the Journal of Neurologic Physical Therapy this year. And some people are on that editorial board, so they might know this already, but I'll put that link in the chat. But it emphasizes some things around like transparency and reproducibility of like code and data, and also some things on like data visualization as sort of best practices that have really grown out of like conversations I've had with people here, or just in accordance with kind of the principles that we're trying to teach here. And we're kind of keep kind of pushing for other journals in the therapy space to adopt something like these guidelines, especially with regards to openness and reproducibility. So please check out JNPT if you're in the neuro world. And if not, maybe some of these things would still be useful for you in submitting to other journals.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith. All right. Oh, Lexi needs to hop off soon for class. So Lexi, do you want to go next? All right, and then
Thank
we'll
you.
return to Jason.
Sorry. Okay. Hi, guys. So my name's Lexi. I'm a second-year PhD student in biomedical engineering at Arizona State. And I was in Pod 1 learning R. And I learned so much from Grace and from Sumi and from everybody else in ReproRehab about just the fundamentals of R. I also like have no stats background. I took my first stats class like a year ago. I know, shameful. But yeah, so I learned a lot of stats. I learned how to code more efficiently. I was exposed to coding through MATLAB as a chemical engineer, and me and MATLAB were not cool. So I was traumatized from that, and I was very scared to get into R, but R is a lot more approachable, and I think that speaks to the ReproRehab community. And what I learned and did during ReproRehab was analyze data from the Healthy Aging Brain Health Disparity Study. I didn't know what it was like to get a data set from somebody else, especially a study with like 3,000 people. So I learned how to organize and clean and wrangle my data. And then I actually did like mixed linear regression analysis. And Andrew helped me a lot with like interpreting my results. So this was a great experience. I recommend ReproRehab to everybody. I want to say thank you so much to Pod 1. Y'all are my dogs. Oh my gosh, y'all are my dogs. Chris, Adriana, oh, just such a joy, such a joy. Oh, somebody just asked me how my comps went. Those are in a month. So far they're great because I haven't taken them yet. But yeah. And I'm talking about ReproRehab in my F31 application that's due in like 8 days. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lexi. All right, Jason.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I am Jason. I was also in Pod 1, and I'm a assistant professor at St. Louis University. I would say like the biggest thing I would like have implemented is just a kind of enthusiasm and a new vision for how I go about approaching data generally. It is very much a conversation that has changed the function of my lab. In terms of how I envision roles and how I have people engage in those roles and with data. And so went on a little bit of a journey, kind of started off doing both R and MATLAB, ended up doing R and Python by the time we were all said and done. But successfully integrated some of our neurophysiologic data through a Python pipeline and have that operating reasonably well at this point, and able to produce pretty high quality visuals as well as process our data effectively there, and have gotten really comfortable with our probably about a month ago. I was like, I was kind of just going through the like list of projects in my head, and I was like, am I ready to get rid of SPSS? Is it time to uninstall? And I have one or two projects that are hanging on, but it made me feel way more comfortable that I was to that point where I was like, I don't have to be in this GUI interface to be able to manipulate my data and to accomplish what I want. And it's actually much more effective when I can be outside of it. So, thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. We love to hear that. And I just want to reiterate, there's no shame in like taking your first stats class or like using SPS. SPSS is a great tool used by millions of people. And same with SAS and Excel as well. Like sometimes just faster and easier. But I am glad to hear everyone's like learning other tools that maybe are more powerful for the things they need. So that's awesome. Thanks, Jason. All right, Abby.
Hi everyone, Abhi Jaywant. I'm an assistant professor at Weill Cornell Medicine in New York City, and I was in Pod 3, this is Intermediate R, with Rini and Andrew. And I came to Rehab really wanting to just create more efficient and reproducible workflows I use a combination in my research of neuroimaging data, so kind of matrix level connectivity data, but also a lot of like cognitive, mood, and patient report data. So Pod 3 was the whole thing was an amazing experience, and I just feel like I learned so much from Andrew and Rini. I think just starting from like importing and managing and cleaning data in R, and then using like certain packages like that LME package to do like linear mixed effects models, and ggplot for doing figures and visualizations. And yeah, I think that so, and especially when it comes to the figures and visualizations, I think one kind of interesting thing has been like now, if I'm like reading a paper or like at a conference, I can like pick out when a figure has been like made in R, and I'm like, yes, I know how to do that. I can do that, rather than it feeling like something that yeah, is sort of like, I think as others have alluded to, like daunting or unattainable. And um I think for me, like a big thing that I've realized over the last months is that like and others have spoken to this too, is that like coding is actually really fun, and I did not think that it could or would be that. And I think definitely before I had some experience with MATLAB and Bash scripting, but it was always something that I either avoided or like did out of absolute necessity, and now it's something that I like actually look forward to doing. And I think that's in part also yeah, there's something about like having like, I think especially in like very uncertain and unpredictable times, and knowing that like I'm gonna like it, and it certainly doesn't work more times than not, but as Lee, as you said, you persist, and like you type something in or type in code and you get an answer and a product out of that. And there's something really valuable to that. So I think I've basically integrated R into like all my projects now. I think I just counted earlier. I think I have 10 different R projects. So it's like fully infused in what I do. So and the community aspect of this has been great too. So just thank you to everyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Abby. All right, Andrew. Hi, Claudia.
Hello, everyone. So I am Andrew. I was the Pod 3 co-TA with the Rini Varghese, and we had a lot of fun this year. I really enjoyed working with Rini on creating the curriculum. Rini taught me a lot about GitHub. I have a GitHub repo with a lot of repositories on it, but I never really knew how to use it. And Rini really called me out and made me actually use it effectively. And so it was great to be able to kind of utilize that as kind of a core kind of thing, part of the curriculum we made this year, which I'm really proud of. This year was actually really a big banner year in terms of taking a lot of what I've learned from ReproRehab and now kind of putting it into practice. So this year with Jason and Daniel, we published a paper that cites the ReproRehab number, and we put all of our code in an R markdown, and it's part of the supplemental, and so people can actually see how the kind of real sausage was made. And then we just had a paper accepted that's the replication of that paper. And so that one and both of those are published or will be published in NNR. And that one will also cite the grant number. And so what I didn't realize this year was perhaps the biggest lesson or kind of biggest insight was that replication is like really exciting. You get really nervous when you're like, okay, this should be the number that you get. It should be statistically significant. And you really don't have any other way out of it. So when it does happen, replication seems really boring, but in reality, it's actually like kind of nerve-wracking. It's kind of fun. So I encourage people, and it can be, and it's publishable. And so we didn't really know as a group whether or not there would be an appetite among reviewers to publish a replication, and apparently there is. So that was really cool. And then being able to also really take ReproRehab on the road. So I was able to do a combined sections meeting kind of platform presentation with Keith and Grace and George Folk and Allison Miller as part of the ReproRehab alum. And then at ASNR, Keith, Lee, and I will be doing more ReproRehab kind of evangelizing as well. So we'll be, it's been a really, I think, banner year in terms of really showing that these principles work, they're effective, they're also not something to be afraid of, and it can really help science. So the kind of principles into practice has really been a big theme of this year for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. You can be our ReproRehab mascot with all of these different accomplishments.
Sure.
That's perfect. All right, thanks. All right, Sebastian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sebastian. I'm a graduate student, PhD student at Case Western Reserve University, and I was in Pod 4. So I guess I set out to pursue ReproRehab because I really wanted to, I guess, gain experience actually applying stats to like a research project. Like for me, I think like someone said earlier, I did it in a class a while ago, and so it was a bit daunting to actually like do it in the real world, And I think looking back now, these past couple of days, I've definitely learned a lot. I took a lot of time, especially in the work blocks, to do stats and kind of learn a lot through the different courses on the website, and just in talking to people, which has been super helpful. Through the pod, especially, I have to shout out Amanda and Joanna because some of the things I learned, especially my favorite for sure, is the dynamic visualizations Amanda showed us. I haven't really done them yet, but it gives me a reason to go to R, which I think is difficult because I'm very much like MATLAB is my child. So it's one reason to not use MATLAB. And so I got to shout out Amanda for that, as well as Joanna for showing us GitHub. I look forward to using that and actually implementing it into my work in the near future. But I think I learned a lot as well in terms of the reproducible principles. It hasn't really been something I'm familiar with, and especially during the research summit a couple of months ago now, it was great to learn that, and I think have that in my, I guess, pocket now that I can move forward with my career and kind of apply those things before I have to go back and like figure things out that I don't remember and was in the past. But yeah, I think I'm definitely very appreciative as well as all the people I met along the way. Especially I want to shout out Devin, who I don't think is here, but if you attended any of his work blocks, he had his at least once a week dad joke, which is definitely a highlight. I told him at times I think he could use a bit of work. There's probably a couple of repeats in there, but I enjoyed them and I hope other people did as well. But yeah, thanks everyone. I appreciate it. Hope we'll see a lot of you at ASNR pretty soon here.
Awesome. Thanks, Sebastian. I'll make sure
Yeah.
Devin watches this recording so that he is aware. All right, Brooke.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Brooke. I'm a research assistant at the Kennedy Krieger Institute. I was in Pod 4. I learned a lot of cool things, but I think my favorite was just how to kind of properly annotate my code in a way that, one, people reading it can understand what I'm trying to do, and then two, when I go back to it, I can understand what I was trying to do, which I have learned the hard way is a hard thing to read your old code, but when I annotate it, it makes that process a little bit better. So that was really cool to learn, but also with Joanna's tutorial for GitHub. Yes, Caitlin, thank you. I will be starting a PhD in Hopkins neuroscience in the fall, where I'll be applying all of these skills. Forward to that. But one thing that I really accomplished through this program was to build a GitHub repository for my current projects with all of the data and all the code. I had never really used GitHub before, so thankfully Joanna showed a really great tutorial about how to use it and navigate it, and then was obviously there for any questions that I had along the way. So thank you all. It's been a really fun experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Brooke, and congratulations. We've had so many great academic transitions in this group, so that's awesome. All right, and I'm just going to add it to the chat again. This is what we're talking about if people are joining at the 11 o'clock hour. Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Perry. I am a research engineer and lab manager at Ohio State Sports Medicine. I'm also a PhD candidate in mechanical engineering. I was in Pod 4 for this fellowship, and in that I went in with like two main goals. First, I wanted to learn more about machine learning. And in doing so, I also learned Python a little bit, just enough to, I guess, be dangerous with it in machine learning. So still a work in progress. And then also I just wanted to learn some best practices for reproducibility and version control and set that up for our lab for better success. So all of the GitHub tutorials and repositories was very beneficial. And then also with Amanda showing us all of the interactive plotting techniques and stuff like that was just an added bonus that I've carried through to data reports and such. So
Awesome. Great to hear. All right, thank you. All right, Sunny.
Hi everyone. My name is Sunny. I am a PhD candidate at USC Occupational Science program. I'm in part 4. And then what I did was that through this program, I motivated myself to complete my data analysis that has been setting a long time in my to-do list, but never got the motivation to actually um move forward, complete it. So I completed it through the program and the work vlogs. And then the one main thing that I learned was using R Markdown to, again, appropriately, like Brooke mentioned, annotate my codes, and then being able to share it with my PI was something really beneficial in a HTML format without all the codes shown there, and then which overwhelms both me and my mentor. And then I also learned a lot more about data visualization in R, how to make ggplot tables, and then figures, and then tables, which I just knew how to print them, and then they look kind of ugly. I have to use Word to copy and paste all my data into Word and then make tables. But then now I know how to directly make them in R, which is really beneficial for me in, moving to the dissemination phase. So yeah, that's what I've accomplished through the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Sunny. All right, Bria.
Hi, everyone. I am a PhD candidate. I was in pod 4. Sorry, I was looking at what I have to cover. And so what I worked on during my time in ReproRehab, I really focused on creating a code that'll allow me to analyze the heart rate data for my dissertation once we're finished with data collection. So it allows me to batch analyze up to 12 exercise sessions for each participant, and it breaks down how many times they reach their target heart rate during high intensity intervals per week, per session, and then overall for all 12 sessions together. So excited about that. And then what I learned, R Markdown is great. It's really great for being able to just document what you're doing, why you made those decisions, and then exporting it to a PDF and giving it to a mentor, another person in the lab. It's fantastic. Also, I love Plotly. Those interactive graphs are fantastic. But yeah, so it's been a great experience. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Bria. Michelle. All right, Michelle may or may not be there. But if she is, you're welcome to jump in at any time. Otherwise, I think you're the last one.
She posted in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh,
looks like she doesn't have
Great.
access to AV.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I will read it out loud. Michelle, a postdoc at Harvard Medical School, Pod 1 learner. She had very little coding experience coming into the program and learned so much R in MATLAB and has been able to apply these skills for data processing and analysis. Thank you to all of the TAs, instructors, and other learners. I learned so much from you. Wonderful. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so I think that wraps up our all hands. This is honestly like my favorite part of the year, just to hear what people have done. And I have to say that like each year, I feel like it gets more and more exciting. No shade to the first few years. Those years are also exciting, but like I feel like what people are doing with the program and in the program has just been so incredible. So thank you so much to all of you for taking the program seriously, for using our resources, and for making it something that's your own. I think that's really meaningful for us, and we love to hear about it. I want to give a huge thank you to all of the TAs. Woohoo! They are the heart of this program. I mean, this program is nothing without the TAs, and we just appreciate them and their flexibility and jumping in and figuring things out and adapting to everything that the learners want so amazingly. I think it's been so incredible, and we're so appreciative of them. And on that note, if you'd like to be a TA next year, we encourage you to apply. Applications are open until I think the 1st or 2nd of May. So please, TAs do get paid $5,000 as a stipend. It is a pittance compared to the work that they do, but it is a little something. And then, learners also spread the word. I just want to set expectations that like we have had we've been having like an exponential increase in applications, which is incredible. But that means that we don't take everybody into the program now. So just, it is getting a little bit more competitive. There is nothing that really makes a good ReproRehab applicant. I think we're just looking to make sure that our pool of fellows is diverse and has specific projects that they really want to work on. You can reapply as a learner and or a TA. You would probably need to pick one or the other. But you could reapply. We have people like, as you know, some of our learners go on to apply to be TAs, or they want to come back as a learner for another, to learn something different in the program. So yeah, we would love to see that. And then we will have the ReproRehab, the next summit. We've already set the dates. I think it's the end of September again. But we will try to accommodate alum if anybody wants to come back just for the fun and karaoke and to speak as an alum about your experiences. So that's something that we plan to do pending as long as funding stays normal. I'm trying to make sure I covered everything. I think so. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say or no?
I'll just say
Yes.
thank you so much, everyone, for all of your hard work this year. And it's been great to get to know all of you. I will be sending a feedback form to all of you sometime this week. We love to receive feedback and ways that we can improve for next year. And for the TAs, I'm in the process of compiling resources right now, and so to make sure that they're all in one place. So just make sure that wherever your resources are in their respective places, whether it's Google Drive or GitHub, that they're the most up to date. And then, yeah, please spread the word about ReproRehab and applications. They are due May 2nd.
Thanks, Emily. She's overseeing our application process as well. All right. On that note, thank you all so much. Hope to see many of you at conferences. When you see someone with a ReproRehab badge, feel free to introduce yourself, even if they were in another year from you or anything. We are a great community, and I think ReproRehab people are the best, nicest, and funnest people in the rehab community. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.